Hello everybody, Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw, we have the brand new set Extra Dimensional Crisis coming very soon, and I wanted to go through and give my initial impressions and ratings on every single card that we know about so far. So the new EX Ultra Beast Pokemon, the new supporter, as well as a lot of the cards that we've seen. I think there are some really cool ones in this set, and as always, I've noticed this in the community. I think we're a little apprehensive to say something is going to be amazing in the new set unless we see something like rare candy, which everyone was like, oh my gosh. But you know, we're kind of like, this new set doesn't look that fire, and then all of a sudden a few things come out from it that are really good. Funny enough, this new set doesn't look that fire so far because they haven't shown many fire Pokemon. Doesn't look water at all, by the way, because they haven't shown any water Pokemon, which is something maybe we can talk about. But let's get into each card here, and I'm going to rate them between 1 and 5 coin flips, because you know, once you hit 5 coin flips, that's essentially 100, right? All right, let's get into it. Let's start with an Ultra Beast that is near and dear to my heart, and that is Buzzwool EX. I'm a kind of a big Buzzwool fan because of how cool it is in Pokemon Unite, so seeing it come to Pocket, you knew at some point this card would come. Buzzwool is a basic Pokemon, 140 HP, with 2 attacks, which is interesting, right? Because you do find the ability to attack for not your full amount of energy does open up a lot of different playstyles. Punch allows you to do 30 damage for 2 colorless, and then Big Beat allows you to do 120 damage for 2 grass, 1 colorless. And then you cannot use Big Beat on your next turn. I'm not sure if this Big Beat not being used on your next turn will be cleansed like other things can be, where, for instance, if you attack with the Leafeon, that older Leafeon, you're able to attack and then go to the bench and then come back in and attack again if you were able to use a fossil to, you know, switch back in. So I don't know if this is something that can be cleansed. I'm guessing it could be, but even if not, it has 2 attacks, 140 HP, and a 2 retreat cost. This card actually reminds me a lot of some of the older EX Pokemon from Genetic Apex. Like, for instance, let's just take a look at Mewtwo EX. Mewtwo EX, 150 HP, able to attack with 2 energy for 50, and then 4 energy for 150. Now, Mewtwo needs Psychic Energy on all of its attacks, so it doesn't have a strict colorless option. It also has to discard 2 energy when it hits with Side Drive, but it does more damage with Side Drive. However, these cards are pretty similar, right? Same kind of retreat cost, very similar HP. The cool thing about Buzzwool, well, there are a few really cool things about Buzzwool. Buzzwool is an Ultra Beast, so it will interact with the new supporter card, but not only that, it will interact with other things in this set that clearly relate to Ultra Beast. We haven't seen the only thing in the set, right? So it's going to react to that. It is a grass type, which has 80 million ways to heal. It has Erica, and it has a Leaf Cape, so it has a few cool things with that. And because it has the ability to sort of power with grass energy, I do think there could be a cool combination with a card like this and something like Superior. Superior, you know, dropped in Mythical Island. It was kind of a big deal, the ability to double up the grass energy you have, and this could set up some really cool plays with Buzzwool. We also, of course, don't know if there will be cards to do more damage to Ultra Beasts or how that will look in this set. So I think Buzzwool seems like a decent card, but also seems like could be quite overpowered by some other things in the meta. The real question behind Buzz is, will this card get the kind of support it needs? It feels like when you look at this card compared to Dhelmise, at least this can do damage in multiple ways. Dhelmise needs 3 energy. It's kind of a similar card, right? Dhelmise EX. However, it does way less damage, and it can't have the early attack. I think because of that, I'm going to give Buzzwool 3 coin flips. It seems good, maybe pretty dang good, depending on the kind of support it can get. Next, let's talk about Tapu Coco EX. This is an interesting card because it does feel like it's a better version of some of the Lightning EX Pokemon that we already have. It's basic. It's 100, I feel like I'm insulting it. It's basic. It's 130 HP. It has 2 attacks as well, kind of like Buzz. Plasma Hurricane and Mach Bolt. Plasma Hurricane for 20 damage will allow you to take a lightning energy in your energy zone and attach it to this Pokemon. And Mach Bolt for 3 energy will allow you to do 90 damage. One of them can be colorless. So this card, I feel like, directly compares to things like Pikachu EX from Genetic Apex or Pachirisu EX. If you take a look at Pikachu EX here, it is 120 HP, same retreat cost, it requires 2 energy to do damage, and you have to have a full bench for this to do 90 damage. Whereas Tapu Coco, yes, does require 1 additional energy, so you are not able to power it as easily on your bench, but outside of that, Tapu Coco feels like it does everything just a bit better than Pikachu. Pikachu, again, easier to power on your bench, and if you have a full bench, you can do 90. Tapu Coco can hit for 20 and power itself, can hit for 90, has more HP, and of course, unlike Pikachu, does not matter what your bench is looking like to deal damage. This, I think, could be looked at as power creep in this game, right? It feels like Tapu Coco does have a few drawbacks, but in general, feels better than Pikachu EX. And if you're looking at it compared to Pachirisu EX, a card that requires 2 lightning energy and a tool attached to it to do 80 damage with lower HP and a similar retreat cost of 1, I really do think Tapu Coco feels like lightning but better. It's just a better EX lightning Pokemon. Now, will this mean that Tapu Coco is a great lightning card? I actually think Tapu Coco could be a really interesting card when you slot it into some powerful lightning decks that already exist, like Oricorio, Magnezone, things like that. When you have multiple options to deal with some of the more prevalent threats out there in Oricorio or something like that, you could have an EX Pokemon that you could slot into your deck, use it to power aggressively, and then power your other Pokemon like you would normally using Magnezone and things like that. I don't know if this is going to be a super powerful card, but it does feel like a better version of some of our Lightning EXs. For those reasons, I'm going to give Tapu Coco EX 4 coin flips, and I think I might be overrating it a little bit, but I do think it's just a very strong version of some of these other Lightning cards. They can be really aggressive early. You know, you're swinging for 20, then 90, 110 in 2 turns is pretty powerful. Next, let's talk about Guzlord EX. Guzlord EX is the card maybe I'm most excited for in this entire expansion. So it is a basic EX Pokemon with 170 HP. That is the most HP a basic has in the entire game. There's no other basic Pokemon that has that amount of HP. It is the most. Hey, future Jake here. I have to mention, I forgot when I was talking about Guzlord being a basic EX Pokemon with 170 HP and there's nothing else in the game like that. I totally spaced on the fact that Wishy-Washy EX has 170 HP. So my apologies, back to past Jake. Sorry, past Jake, but future Jake knows more than you. It also has 2 attacks, Grindcore for 30 and Tyrannical Hole for 120. If you get 4 energy on it, watch out for my Tyrannical Hole. Grindcore here for 2 colorless energy attacks for 30. And then you flip a coin until you hit tails. So for each heads, you will discard an energy at random from your opponent's active Pokemon. Guzlord has a built-in Team Rocket Grunt. What an absurd Pokemon. Now, of course, depending on how useful this is, like a lot of people could be powering on their bench, they don't move their Pokemon in until they want to fight. This thing has an insane amount of HP, and if anything is in the active spot with energy until you are able to show them your Tyrannical Hole, Grindcore will, that's the last joke I'm going to make like that, I think. Grindcore will allow you to attack and remove energy from the active. It could be unbelievably devastating. Now, of course, half of the time, this will do nothing. It will do 30 damage. Nothing, I guess, isn't right. It will do 30 damage. But the other half of the time, it will at least remove a single energy from your opponent. And on and on and on, right? That is unbelievably strong, it feels like to me. You know what? I think it'd be fun to be right or wrong with some of these. I am going to just go out on a limb here and say Guzlord is 5 coins for me. 5 out of 5 coins. It's probably going to get countered by some things in the meta. It is weak to grass. So yes, it has a ton of HP, but there are some crazy good grass decks in the game that I don't think they're going anywhere. But this is one of the cards I'm just so unbelievably excited to try. So for me, this is a 5 out of 5 coins. Realistically, it's probably less. Let's stay on the EX Pokemon right now and talk about Ultra Necrosma EX. 150 HP Dragon type with 2 attacks. It has Photon Claw for 60, 3 colorless, and Shoegaze for 120 damage. This costs 4 specific energies. It's 2 Psychic, 2 Metal, and if you hit with this, you discard the top 5 cards in each player's deck. I can't really compare this to much in the game. It is a dragon type, so we can talk about how that's going to affect it, but this feels like a pretty unique card. However, it is a basic EX, 150 HP with 2 attacks, so there are definite comparisons you can make. You know, there are a lot of cards that have a similar flavor to them. We talked about Mewtwo earlier. You could look at something like Articuno has 2 attacks, right? One does 40, one does 80. However, there are very few Pokemon in the game, I don't think any EX Pokemon in the game, that require such a difficult energy combination to do its most powerful attack. In fact, the only card this kind of reminds me of is the basic Giratina that is Dragon that has Crisis Dive, allowing you to do 120 damage. Interesting that this extra dimensional Crisis, and now Giratina has Crisis Dive. But this card requires 1 Grass, 1 Psychic, and 1 Colorless. This card is just kind of ridiculous. You also have to discard energy at random after you attack. This card is just so funny to me. But don't worry, they made Giratina good with Giratina EX. However, Necrozma has a similar situation where it requires a lot of energy and it has to be really specific. I think the reasonable way to power something like this, like in my head, would be to take something like Ultra Necrozma EX in the active spot, or even on the bench, and then you wait to put it into the active spot. You power with Giratina EX on your bench, and then you use Lunala to move the energy up, and you make the deck a metal deck. That's like, I feel like the most basic version of making this deck work. However, it feels kind of crazy. And I will say that a lot of the promo EX Pokemon, and this is a promo EX, so Lapras, Cresselia, Necrozma, Rayquaza, all of these Pokemon are mid. They're all pretty mid to low mid. You know, they're not amazing. Necrozma EX is a really interesting one. I think people are going to enjoy it. I do think when it works and it does its thing, and you know it discarded an important card from your deck and your opponent doesn't care what, like, it took from them, it's going to be super fun. I also think it having no weaknesses as a dragon type, we don't have that confirmed because it doesn't show the bottom of the card, but I think we can safely assume, given how dragon types work, that it will have no weaknesses. I do think this is going to be a super fun card, but like a lot of the promos, I think it will ultimately be a bit underwhelming. I would love to be proven wrong though. I'm going to give this one 2 coin flips, 2 heads. All right, we've talked about some of our EXs. Let's talk about some more of our Ultra Beasts here. Let's talk about Niiligo. Niiligo, 70 HP, a dark type Pokemon. It requires 2 energy to attack with New Wave, where you poison your opponent's active Pokemon and deal 30 damage. However, the real reason this card is super exciting is its ability, More Poison. Your opponent's active Pokemon takes plus 10 damage from being poisoned. So this obviously opens up a lot of opportunities, and it just continues to make Arceus something that will probably never go away, a card that just doesn't get affected by status conditions. The better status conditions are, and the more meta they are, the better Arceus is for just saying no. Niiligo, I think, is pretty cool. It will most likely be a bench Pokemon that you attach to a deck that is having fun poisoning your opponents. You can imagine this being paired with Clodsire, Alolan Mach. You could see this with a Grafaiai deck. There are just a lot of options where you could see this, and poison going from 10 damage to 20, which is the same as burn, without the same way of it being healed, right? With burn, you flip a coin and you can be healed. With poison, that is not happening. So as long as they're in the active spot, they are staying poisoned, which I think is very cool. I also think you could see something like this with it and Toxicroak, where it poisons them with Toxic. I have to assume it would stack and make that a 30 damage poison, which would be pretty cool. I think this card will live or die based on how good poison is in the meta. I think in general, with things like Pokemon Center Lady and Arceus and things like this, it's fine. One cool thing about something like this is, even if you happen to be running a deck that does not want to run into Oricorio like Muck and Clodsire or something like that, having poison that actually does 20 damage every single turn could be pretty solid. And if you have to move in Niiligo, you are able to do that extra 30, which is pretty dang solid. I mean, you have to think Niiligo does 30 damage and then it applies a 20 damage poison essentially to that active spot. I'm probably more interested in this card than it will be viable, but for that reason, I'm giving this 4 coin flips. Our next Ultra Beast I want to talk about is the only fire card that we've seen in this set so far, and that is Bphilon. This is its full art version that they showed off. 100 HP as a basic, not too bad. 3 energy attack for Beat Punk, doing 130 damage while also doing 70 damage to itself. So if this card has taken any damage, it may be KOing itself when it attacks your opponents. However, 130 damage on a basic Pokemon is quite good. Also, something to point out, if it doesn't KO itself and your opponent can't take it down, this card could possibly swing twice for 130 damage. It has a few drawbacks. One, it has a 2 retreat cost, which is pretty rough. So if it's the card you start with in the active spot, you may never get this thing out, and then by the time you attack, it is going down. It's a little bit of a, you know, I'm KOing you, but I'm KOing myself at the same time. Again, especially if it's been hit at all. I do think this card being paired with the new Ultra Beast supporter, which I guess I should probably talk about right after I get through with our Ultra Beast right here, because I do think it's a very powerful card. Sets up opportunities where this will probably come in without ever taking damage from the bench, get powered up with a supporter and swing for 130, which could be really, really good. Also, when this Pokemon eventually does go down with 3 energy attached to it after it's already attacked, you could use that same supporter again to power up another Ultra Beast. This card kind of reminds me of Moltres from Genetic Apex, not Moltres EX. This card has Sky Attack for 130 damage. It takes 3 energy. However, half of the time it's going to do nothing, right? So half the time you'll be able to hit for 130, the other half of the time the attack does absolutely nothing. This card allows you to guarantee that you hit, but also put yourself in a position where you will likely go down. That Moltres didn't see a ton of play, even though there were a few decks that could use it. I do think coin flips are just too inconsistent. For this, you absolutely know what you are doing with this card. You are positive that you are hitting for 130 damage, which is pretty dang strong. I'm very interested to see what other Ultra Beasts are in this set and how this could possibly combo with the Fire deck. Right now, I'm going to say this looks decent. Especially, I mean, again, 130 damage, 100 HP, not too bad. I'm going to give this one 3 coin heads. Coin heads? What am I calling these? And I want to talk more about the Ultra Beast, but I do think I should talk about this supporter card here because it is incredibly powerful. This is Lucamine. It is the supporter that allows you to attach energy to your Ultra Beast. So you can only use this card if your opponent has already gotten a point, which creates some really interesting strategic decisions. If you're running into an Ultra Beast deck, you probably know they're running this card. However, this card almost acts like a Pissimian in some ways. So Pissimian EX, once it goes down, you can use that energy, throw it back to one of your benched Pokemon, and you can power that with 2 energy. With this card, if your opponent has gotten a point by knocking something out, you can choose one of your Ultra Beasts, it doesn't need to be in the active spot, it could be anywhere, and attach 2 random energy from your discard pile to that Pokemon. A lot of the time you are running a single energy type in a deck, so you kind of know what you're attaching, right? You lose a single Pokemon in the Fire deck that we were kind of just talking about, and you are now able to take whatever energy was attached to that, or I guess I should say whatever energy is in your discard pile. Energy goes in your discard pile in multiple ways, but one of the most common ways is a Pokemon with energy on it gets KO'd. Energy also goes there when you retreat and spend energy. It goes on there if someone were to Team Rocket Grunt you or something like that, if a card requires you to discard energy from attacking. So there are multiple ways that energy goes to your discard pile. But again, the most common, a Pokemon is KO'd, that energy is in your discard pile, right? This card requiring you to have 1 point given up to your opponent already means a Pokemon has gone down, likely you'll be taking that energy, 2 of them, and putting it on another Pokemon. So this is an opportunity where something like Buzzwool could get powered up very fast, an opportunity where you've lost some energy with some of your dark types and all of a sudden Guzlord is in there showing off its tyrannical, well, You know what we're going to talk about here. But Guzlord could come in and start swinging for 120. I think this card is very good. Extremely good, and will probably be a staple in most all of the Ultra Beast decks. For that reason, I'm going to give this 5 coin flips up. Coin flip heads. God, I need a better term for this. Back to our Ultra Beast, let's talk about Celestia. Celestia is pretty good. It's colorless with 120 HP. Its retreat cost is ludicrous at 4, but its ability kind of talks about this, right? So it has an attack, Moonbaton, that will swing for 100 damage. However, it is a coin flip attack. This card feels like it's almost entirely in a deck so that you are able to use its ability, which is once during your turn, you can switch your active Ultra Beast with one of your benched Ultra Beasts. This is very, very powerful, right? This card allows you to move something out of the active, like itself, with 4 retreat costs, Guzlord with 4 retreat costs, for something else for free. That is insanely good. It is a card that you have to have on your bench, but once you have it, you essentially have a free leaf, or better than a leaf, right? When you're talking about a 4 energy retreat cost card, and you're able to switch things out. Putting this into an Ultra Beast deck, the nice thing is, even if you start with this in your active spot, you could switch it out as soon as you get another Ultra Beast that you want there. You also can tank a lot of damage with this with 120 HP, so this could be a really strong card. It's extremely specific, which of course means I don't think I could say it's like a 5-star card necessarily, but you know, for Ultra Beast decks, maybe it is a 5-star. I called it 5-star instead of 5 coin flips. The system doesn't work. It could be a 5 coin flip card, but I'm gonna say that this is probably like a 4 coin flip. I think this is pretty good. I think this card is quite strong, and it could be used in some Ultra Beast decks. We might find that it's just filling decks and it's unnecessary. You have too many good cards that you want to put in there, and this just doesn't make its way into decks and becomes more specific, but I do think its ability is crazy good. Next Ultra Beast I want to talk about is Nagonado, and I might as well talk about Poipole at the same time. So these cards are the basic and stage 1 that we see for this deck. This is a dark type card. It allows you to attack for 40 damage with a single energy, and it will poison your opponent's active Pokemon. You can see the obvious combinations with many decks out there that want to run poison damage. I don't think this is too bad. I do think being able to attack for a single energy at 40 is pretty solid, and poison is now a little bit better. This will probably be a bit underwhelming. I do think in general stage 1 cards are just in an awkward spot in the game right now. We have rare candy, so if a stage 1 is not crazy good, it might be a little underwhelming, but I do think pairing this with Niiligo could be really, really fun and cool. I'm going to go ahead and give this combination... Oh, I might as well talk about Poipole as well. Poipole has 2-step, which will allow you to attack by flipping 2 coins and does 20 damage for each heads. I think that's pretty bad. 60 HP, which is, you know, not amazing in general. I think this one is going to be a little underwhelming. I'm going to give it 2 coin flips, but I, of course, want to see the poison deck with this card and Niiligo. Next Ultra Beast is Formosa, 70 HP as a grass type with jump blues. For a single grass energy, you can do 20 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Has to be a benched Pokemon, by the way. It is not able to hit anything else, so we've got a little bit of a sneaky Lee situation happening with Formosa. It's grass type, so you could attach things like a Leaf Cape to it. You could heal it in some pretty crazy ways. I also think you're going to see cards like Formosa and Kartana. We might as well talk about Kartana right now as well. Kartana, another Ultra Beast. Essentially, you've got very similar to a Hitmonlee and very similar to a Farfetch'd in Kartana. 40 damage for 1 energy with Thrash Metal. These cards being in the active spot and then getting KO'd would set up easy situations where Buzzwool or something like that is powered. So I could definitely see them in decks like that. And if you're looking for a grass Farfetch'd that could run a Leaf Cape, Kartana has got you covered. I think both of these cards are decent. I would give them both 3 coin flips. I think I got my coin flip system down with that one. Our next Ultra Beast is Attacka, 110 HP and a metal card allowing you to attack your opponents for 40 damage for 2 energy. And after you attack, this Pokemon will take minus 20 damage from attacks on its next turn. During your opponent's next turn, I should say. So it attacks for pretty decent damage. Like 40 isn't incredible for 2 energy, but it's not the worst either. It's a consistent 40 damage and your opponents are going to do minus 20 to you. So you could be in there for a while as kind of an annoying wall fighting your opponents. One thing is for sure, it's a little hard to get this card out of the active spot given that it has a 3 retreat cost, but this might be a situation where you're planning on having this card go down and you're just using it to power your bench and get things set up for your squad. Brass rock here for 2 energy, one of them being metal. And the fact that it's pretty tanky. You could have this in the active. You could have something like Giratina on the bench, right? You could be powering up a Lunala and getting a Necrosma ready to go. This card goes down. You bring Necrosma into the active. You send up the energy with Lunala, the psychic energy you've generated, and then you use our brand new supporter Lucamine to attach the energy from Attacka. And all of a sudden, you're fighting with Ultra Necrozma. Something like this could happen. I do think a card like this feels pretty decent. Also, it wouldn't be the worst thing to power with something like Dialga right away, right? You could just attack with Dialga and then this thing is ready to go and fight. However, I do think a high retreat cost could be a little tricky for this one, and I'm not sure what other decks yet we could pair this with. For now, I'm giving this 3 coin flips. Our next Ultra Beast is Zirketry. This card has 100 HP, a 2 retreat costs, which is a lot for a lightning type. Almost every lightning type feels like it has either no retreat cost or 1 retreat, and it's able to do 60 damage with Electronica, and it confuses your opponent's active Pokemon. This isn't terrible, and I do think you could play around with this in some lightning decks in some pretty fun ways. Confusion is not as good as some of the other status conditions in the game. It feels like one of the weaker status conditions. If your opponent decides to attack you from the active spot, they flip a coin and it's possible the attack doesn't succeed. But it doesn't have, paralyzed where they're stuck there. It doesn't have sleep where they don't even get to make that consideration, right? If they don't flip the coin right, they just are stuck there. So I don't love confusion in general in the game. I'm going to give this 2 coin flips, but I would love to see some cool decks with it, for sure. Now that we're through our Ultra Beasts, let's take a look at some of the other cards in this set. I want to talk about Zeraora. Zeraora, some more Pokemon Unite love. Zeraora was our first event Pokemon in the game, I want to say. Zeraora, 90 HP. Thunderclap Flash is its ability. At the end of your first turn, I think the word your there is very important. Take a lightning energy from your energy zone and attach it to this Pokemon. It requires 2 lightning energy to attack with Lightning Claw, but again, if you are, getting this on the board at all, it could be on your bench, it could be in the active spot. You are generating an energy right away with this card. So you're kind of, not exactly, but kind of attacking for a single lightning energy doing 50 damage with 90 HP. I actually think Zeraora seems pretty dang good. You could have it on the bench, free lightning energy. You could have it in the active, free lightning energy, and then you could attack the following turn. And it does say at the end of your first turn. So whether you go first or second with this card should generate energy. Overall, I'm actually pretty stoked for this. I think it could be a really cool card. It has the huge drawback of if you don't get it early, this card is super unfortunate. So because of that, I think the most I can give this is 3 coin flips, but I do like it. And I think it's pretty cool. Next, we have the new Shenotic, 90 HP. It's a stage 1 Pokemon, which is really the only thing bad about this. It has a 2 colorless energy attack with Gentle Slap, as well as a 2 retreat cost. It is weak to Steel, and its ability Illuminate is crazy good. Once during your turn, you may put a random Pokemon from your deck into your hand. So unbelievably strong. I mean, of course, it being a stage 1 is kind of what slows this down a little bit, right? But I imagine Meowscarada did not need to have Sprigatito in the active spot using an energy to dig through your deck, right? This is what you are finding with this card. I think it could be incredibly powerful, but you do need multiple cards to get this online, right? You need its basic, and then you need to find its stage 1. I could see some really fun decks with this in a fossil deck, where you're using this to help thin your deck and pull out all of those fossils that you could be looking for. You won't find the actual fossils themselves, but you will find the evolutions that you need to get those fossils online. Given that it attacks with colorless energy, you could just use this card almost like a Chatot in some ways, is like the only card in that active spot, so you could hopefully find some of your other cards. Again, the stage 1 part is the only thing holding it back. I'm gonna cautiously give this 4 coin flips. It might be even better. It's crazy good, but it does require you to get Morlul out and then the following turn get Shenotic out. And because of that, it might slow it down enough where there are some really cool decks with this, but not insane decks. However, lots of decks could decide, hey, I'm just going to put this thing on my bench. I'm using this as a bench filler, but it's going to help me thin my deck in some insane ways, and I'm going to power up everything I need very quickly. And of course, the more cards you're pulling out of your deck, the more likely it is that you're grabbing things that you need, right? So if you're looking for a fossil, or you're looking for rare candy or something like that in your deck, getting rid of some of those cards in your deck makes it more likely you're going to draw something super powerful. This could be a really great card. Let's talk about type Null. 80 HP with the attack Quick Blow, allowing you to do 20 damage, and if you flip a coin and get heads, you do an additional 20. The tough thing about this card for me is its retreat cost, which is 2. I think that's an unfortunate retreat cost for a card like this. It's colorless, which is nice, but this card does remind me of other cards that we have seen. For instance, I think immediately what springs to mind are sort of those easy colorless cards that could sit in that active spot. Things like Farfetch'd, Kangaskhan, Cyclizar, and I think it's just, you know, kind of another version of those with some advantages and some disadvantages. So with Farfetch'd, it has 60 HP, but it guarantees to swing for 40, and then with Kangaskhan, it has 100 HP. However, its attack is less consistent. It can do 30, it can do 60, and it can also do 0. It has a hefty retreat cost as well, so this card feels like it's splitting the difference a bit. I do feel like Cyclizar is almost this card, but better. Let me pull up Cyclizar right here. 80 HP, 20 damage, but the next turn you are guaranteed to do 40, and it has a single retreat cost. This is just another flavor of this kind of card, and it seems fine. I think given how good some of the other cards are in this slot and how it's going to be competing with some of them, this is probably a 2 coin flip for me. New promo Rowlet looks amazing. 60 HP, weak to fire, 1 retreat cost, fury attack, allowing you to flip 3 coins and doing 10 damage for each heads. Seems pretty terrible. I'm going to give this 1 coin flip. I don't see a reason you would run this over the other Rowlets currently. They just seem better, more consistent. Play the other Rowlets. If you liked coin flips, you're going to love Alolan Diglett right here. A new version of Alolan Diglett, 60 HP, happened to headbutt with the text of the card scooted over. I'm not sure why they have some of the text scooted over. I think they were just kind of like, they hit the tab button when they were making the card, and they were like, there's no time! The new set's coming out. Happened to headbutt, 40 damage, flip a coin. If tails, this attack does nothing. No thank you. I'm going to give this 1 coin flip. And you know what? 0 coin flips. I make the rules around here. I didn't even think I could give 0. 0 coin flips. My overall thoughts are there are a lot of cool things coming in this set, and like always, I've noticed the community is a little down on the early look from a new set, but you'll remember times where they were down on certain cards, and then once it comes out, you realize, wow, this thing is actually extremely good in this meta, especially given some other cards we could see. We haven't seen a single water card. We've only seen 1 fire card. There are a lot of things that we have just not seen from this new set. I don't know what they're going to be doing with fighting, so this could be a really, really interesting set, and we'll hopefully know more about it next week before it drops, but if not, we will find out everything once it goes live. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. I love you. Let me know what you think I got right, what I got wrong in the comments, and let me know what you think about my extremely impressive rating system. Bye, guys. We did it.